All right, you already know the cost of living in Oregon is less expensive than California, but just how much less expensive is it? And is everything less expensive, or are there a few things that you might actually spend more money for in Oregon? In this video, I'm gonna dig into the numbers and I'm gonna look at the Oregon coast specifically. I'm gonna show you a map that breaks it down county by county so you can see where the cost of living is the highest and where it's the lowest in the state of Oregon. I'll then contrast that with California so you can kind of get a feel for what things look like depending on where you're coming from, because it's really going to vary depending on where you're coming to, where you're coming from, and where you're moving to. And you might find some pretty big differences. In this video, I'm gonna break all those things down. All that starts now. Hey everyone, Seth Marchant with the Home Team Brokers here. If you are new to this channel, living on the Oregon coast, we show you what it's like to eat, sleep, play, work, all the pros and cons of living on the Oregon coast. And in this case, we're gonna break down what it looks like if you're moving from California to Oregon and what some of the cost differences are. Hit the subscribe button, tap that bell, make sure you get notified each time we drop a new video. We get people reaching out to us all the time that are moving, and we love to hear from you. So give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email. You can even click the link below if you'd like to schedule a Zoom. No matter how you get in touch with us, we've got your back when it comes to moving to the Oregon coast. All right, so like I mentioned in this video, we're gonna dig into the numbers, and the numbers can tell you a lot, but they don't always tell you everything, or they don't quite evoke the emotion or that feeling that you get when you actually experience something like this, moving from one place to another, especially when the contrasts are so great. Now, I've never lived in California. I've visited there quite a few times, and I did visit there somewhat recently, in which I rented an Airbnb, specifically in Hollywood, California. It was a mid-century, 3-bed, 1.5 bath. I don't recall the nightly rate, but it really wasn't that expensive. It was pretty much on par with other local, accommodations, Airbnbs, hotels, whatever it may be. And so I was curious what the value of this home would be. Again, this is like a 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath in Hollywood. Wasn't in great condition. Great location though. It was walkable to everything. It was walkable to the Hollywood Strip, or whatever that's called, where the stars have their, where the celebrities have their star and their name in the street there. So it was really close to everything, walkable to everything. Not in great condition. Did have bars on the windows. Whenever you got bars on the windows, that's going to tell you a little something about the area. But I was curious, like, what is this home worth? As I was staying in this home, and so I started doing a little digging and looking at comps, homes that have recently sold that are comparable to it nearby, and what it last sold for, and what the appreciation had been over the recent years. And what I saw was this house, again, mid-century, probably built in 50s, 60s, something like that, 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath ranch home. Again, not in great condition, not terrible, good enough condition to host an Airbnb. This home was worth about 1.1, maybe 1.2 million dollars. That was really a shock, because even in Oregon, being one of the highest cost per living states in the country, $1.2 million will buy you a lot of house, regardless of where you live in Oregon. So that was a pretty big shock, just kind of actually feeling those numbers, feeling what it's like to be in a $1.2 million house, again, 1,200 square feet. If you lived somewhere on the Oregon coast and you had a $1.2 million budget, I mean, you're getting a mansion, you're getting the views, you're getting everything that you want. So for Californians moving to Oregon, if that feeling is anywhere near the same feeling that I had, that wow feeling, like, wow, are you kidding me? $1.2 million for this house, which would probably be, depending on where it's at in Oregon, anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000, maybe $600,000 in some places. It was a pretty big surprise, and again, you can look at the numbers all day, but when you actually experience that and feel that, it's a world of difference. And that's probably one of the reasons almost 40,000 Californians are leaving California every year for Oregon, according to the Oregon Employment Department and the Census Bureau. Now, the average cost of living, like I mentioned, it's going to vary, but it's going to literally be anywhere from a third to half if you're coming from California and moving somewhere along the Oregon coast. It could even be a quarter, especially if you're coming from like the Bay Area and moving somewhere a little bit more to one of the more inexpensive counties on the Oregon coast. So we're looking at a massive difference. I mean, that's why a lot of people are moving here. The biggest, of course, cost of living difference is going to be your housing. Now, if we look at just Oregon as a state and California as a state, your average income for Oregon is about $50,000. California, it's about $60,000. If you're along the Oregon coast, it's closer to about $40,000. It will vary again from county to county. So if you compare the Oregon coast to just California in general, your income is going to be anywhere from 15 to 20, 25% less along the Oregon coast than it might be in California. However, your housing is going to be 50% less, maybe 60 or 70% less. So that's a huge difference. And that's one of the big reasons that people are moving from California to Oregon. You can take your house in California that you're in Hollywood, you got a $1.2 million house, maybe you've owned it for a while, so you've got some equity in it, maybe you only owe half of that on it, say $600,000. You have $600,000 of equity in your home. When you come to Oregon, you're probably not taking out a mortgage, you're probably just gonna drop cash on that new house. And so that's highly appealing to some people, to get more house and to actually ditch that mortgage and just pay cash. So that's one reason why 40,000 plus Californians are moving from California to Oregon every year, despite, again, Oregon and on the Oregon coast being one of the higher costs of living in the country. All right, so as you can see from this map of Oregon, and these are the counties, the northernmost county, which is Clatsop County, which is where Astoria is, has the highest cost of living compared to the rest of the counties along the Oregon coast. Despite that, it's still less than the Portland metro area, and it's still significantly less than anywhere in California. And then along the Oregon coast, you've got a few pockets throughout the central Oregon coast where it's less expensive, and then down to that southern Oregon coast in Curry County where Brookings and Gold Beach are, it jumps back up a little bit more, but significantly less than anywhere else in California. Now in California, no surprise, most expensive in the Bay Area, followed by LA. That's what you're seeing down south there when you see those darker shades of colors. And then finally, San Diego. So regardless of where you're moving, especially from the Bay Area, your housing costs are going to be a fraction of what they are in California. So what you can see is the highest cost per living on the Oregon coast is going to be in the north in Clatsop County, where Astoria is. Your lowest cost of living is going to be around Coos County, where Coos Bay and North Bend is, as well as Lane County. Lane County, though, is very small. There's only a few small towns there, a couple thousand people. So you might not necessarily be looking there. If you're really looking, you're probably going to want to look to Coos County. Or if you don't mind, one suggestion, one big difference you're going to find between these counties on the Oregon coast, aside from cost, if you're coming from California, one thing that you're probably going to be paying attention to is how much sun that you're going to be getting. And the northern Oregon coast gets about 120 sunny days a year. The southern Oregon coast gets closer to almost 200 sunny days per year. It's somewhere around 190. So if you're on the northern Oregon coast, it's going to be 2 cloudy days for every 1 sunny day. The southern Oregon coast down there in Brookings, Curry County, closer to Coos Bay, Coos County, you're gonna get actually more of a 1-to-1 ratio. 1 cloudy day for every 1 sunny day. So it's not quite the stigma that Oregon has where it's like raining and cloudy 10 months out of the year. It's sunny a lot more than kind of that national stigma says it is, but there is a big difference between the northern Oregon coast and the southern Oregon coast. You're going to get a few more months of sunny days per year if you stay on that southern Oregon coast. So as a Californian who maybe isn't worried too much about the cost of living because it's going to be so much less regardless of where you're coming from, you might be looking to the southern Oregon coast. What you're seeing is I'm comparing Clatsop County, which is the most expensive cost of living county on the Oregon coast, to the most expensive area in California, which is the Bay Area, San Francisco. Your income in San Francisco is not quite twice as much, but your housing is almost 4 times as much, more than 3 times as much. So it's just crazy. So if you're coming from the Bay Area, and you probably already know this, but just looking at the numbers, it's a huge difference. Now you also kind of notice too, Bay Area age group is younger. They got all those tech companies there, right? So a lot of younger people. Unemployment is a little bit lower, a little bit higher on the Oregon coast. But one thing you kind of notice there, the comfort index. For the summer, those sunny days, it's really not a whole lot better in the Bay Area than it is this is the northern Oregon coast. This is Clatsop County where Astoria is. So they get about 120 days of sunshine this year as compared to closer to 200 days on the southern Oregon coast that I mentioned. So we're comparing one of those like low sunshine day spots on the Oregon coast to San Francisco, and you can see there that the comfort index really isn't a whole lot different. So people on the Oregon coast are pretty happy at least when it's sunny out there. Now here are some more of the numbers. 100 is a baseline, so when you see that Astoria is 102, that just means they're 2% above the national average. And as you can see, San Francisco being 244. Again, one of the most expensive cost per living cities in the country. And then when you look at that housing line, boom, it's a massive difference there for the housing. I mean, that's really, again, can't say it enough, that's what's sending people from California to other states like Oregon. Another big one you see, transportation. Transportation is twice as expensive as it is from San Francisco to Astoria. Now, public transportation is not going to be used quite as much in like an Astoria as compared to a big city like a San Francisco. You're gonna find more people driving along the Oregon coastal towns than they are taking the bus in like a big city in a San Francisco. So that's gonna be part of your reason for that big difference in the transportation. And then another one, you see your utilities are quite a bit less in Oregon. California, utilities actually lower than the national average, which was kind of surprising given some of the problems that they have with their utilities. All right, and I think to be fair, we'll contrast, again, the most expensive cost per living in Oregon, which is in Astoria, to Los Angeles rather than San Francisco. Kind of not fair comparing San Francisco being one of the most expensive cities in the country. It doesn't really kind of give you as accurate of a picture. So let's look at LA, and still a big difference though. As you can see, housing is over twice the cost, and everything else is pretty much in line with what you see in San Francisco. Food and groceries, utilities, health, stuff like that is all pretty much in line. But the housing, you see, big difference between LA and anywhere on the Oregon coast. Not as big as San Francisco though, but still a massive difference. Enough to drive a lot of people from Southern California in the LA area to move somewhere in Oregon. All right, now let's look at some food costs. Now everything's just a little bit more expensive in California. There's a few things that are less expensive on this list, as you can see. I did read some stuff online that people said that farmers markets, things were less expensive there. I couldn't really find any data or any numbers to back that up. We have a lot of farmers markets here in Oregon as well, of course, and pretty reasonably priced, I think. But apparently there's some really great farmers markets, and costs in California in some places might actually be a little bit less expensive with your groceries than it is in Oregon. Now here's another cost that you might not really consider when you're coming from California, when you're going to Oregon, which is your activities, specifically your outdoor activities. We're very outdoorsy here in Oregon. It's beautiful, it's green, there's tons of trails, parks. About 56% of the land is publicly owned, So there's a lot of publicly owned land that's available for people for hiking, biking, all the kind of outdoor activities that people love to do. So with all the public land, all the parks, all the outdoor stuff that you can do in the state of Oregon, you might save a few bucks rather than some of the stuff that you're gonna do in California. Probably one advantage of California, specifically some of the bigger areas like the Bay Area or like LA, you do have a lot of activities such as like your sports teams. You have a lot more sports teams, and those sports tickets are expensive, so you might go from spending, money on Lakers tickets to, hiking, biking, all that kind of outdoor stuff in Oregon. So you might save a few bucks there with your activities as well. There's a lot of outdoor stuff to do. It's beautiful in Oregon. We try and spend as much time outside as we can. Again, it doesn't rain all the time here. It doesn't rain 10 months out of the year. It rains, a fair amount more than California, but we get plenty of sun too. And there's plenty of sun to get out and do stuff. And if you're somebody that likes to get out, we do have all 4 seasons here in Oregon, including on the Oregon coast. You don't quite feel it on the Oregon coast as much as you do Oregon. Pretty rare that you're gonna get snow. I have seen it before and seen it in recent years here on the northern Oregon coast. Never seen it on the southern Oregon coast. I don't know if it ever snows on the southern Oregon coast. But you do have seasons. You have fall and winter. The leaves turn, that beautiful orange in the fall time. And it's beautiful when everything starts blooming in the springtime here. So even on the Oregon coast, we do have those 4 seasons. So if you're a season person, if you like to see spring, if you like fall, that is another thing that kind of comes with the outdoors and an advantage of coming from California to Oregon. All right, next, here's a big difference, taxes. There's quite a few differences with taxes. First one, we don't have sales tax in Oregon like you do everywhere else in the country. So when you buy that $3.99 loaf of bread, you pay $3.99 at the cash register. So that's always really nice. I know you're probably used to paying sales tax if you've been in California your whole life. When you don't have to pay it, it's really nice. And if you do have to pay it when you travel outside of Oregon, you're not used to paying it, it's really annoying. So it's nice not to have sales tax, but here's one that actually you might not know about, and that's property taxes. You might find that your property taxes are going to be higher in the state of Oregon. Now that depends on where you live. So it'll vary from county to county or municipality to municipality. But in general, the statewide average, the property taxes are actually a little bit higher in Oregon than California. So if you were to take the same budget, again, let's say you're that person in Hollywood that has that $1.2 million home, and you spent the same thing in Oregon, you're actually gonna end up paying more in property taxes than you do in Oregon than you would in California. So that is one cost that people might not be aware of. Most people coming from California are not spending the same amount of money. Typically their budget is going to be lower. That's part of the reason for coming here, is to save a little bit of money. But if you keep the same budget, you may actually spend more money on property taxes in Oregon than you would in California. All right, here's another tax though. If you're a business owner, you're gonna benefit a little bit from this. The business taxes are a little bit higher in the state of California. They have, I guess, I wasn't familiar with this until I looked it up, but they have an $800 franchise fee that you pay after the second year, or in your second year after the first year, that you pay every year. And your corporate taxes are about 8, in the high 8s, like 8.8, whereas Oregon is 6.6. So if you're a business owner, you'll find that you're gonna save on taxes coming to the state of Oregon. So no sales tax, higher property taxes, probably won't pay more money though, because you're probably going to spend less on your property. Lower business taxes. So that's where your taxes are going to fall coming from California to Oregon. And then you've got income taxes. California being the highest in the country, I'm sure you know when you leave California you're going to pay less income taxes regardless of where you go. Oregon, of course, is also on the higher side, one of the highest in the country. We're at 9.9. I think you in California, you're probably around somewhere at like 13.5. So 3% is still a lot, 3 to 4% is still a lot. That's a lot to save every year. Big difference. Even though Oregon still being one of the higher in the country, you'll save big time on income taxes as well. All right, so what did we learn? Well, no shocker, Oregon's less expensive than California, mostly housing. Some things might be a little bit more expensive. You might pay a few more bucks for a few groceries here and there. Again, If you keep the same budget or the same value property coming from California, Oregon, you might pay more property taxes, but probably not. You're probably gonna be like most people and spend less money. So all in all, it's gonna be less expensive, but a lot less expensive, dramatically less expensive. But it can vary from place to place, as you kind of saw on that county map. So if you're thinking about moving somewhere along the Oregon coast, or really anywhere in Oregon, we can walk you through that and kind of show you even in more detail some of those differences and really help you nail down the exact perfect place for you. So give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email. You can comment below or schedule a Zoom with us in the link in the description. No matter how you want to get in touch with us, we've got your back when it comes to moving to the Oregon coast.